The Pro BTB Poursamadi indicator, which is offered for various platforms on the TradingFinder website. Traders can conveniently access the indicator on the TradingView website from this section, and to better understand how the indicator works and operates, they can refer to this page for more information. To access the indicator on the TradingView website, go to the indicator section, search for the indicator's name, and after selecting it, apply it to your chart. For quicker and easier access to this indicator, you can add it to your favorites in TradingView by enabling the Add to Favorites option. Once you enable the indicator on the chart, it starts identifying and displaying buy and sell signals directly on the price chart. The Pro BTB Poursamadi indicator is one of the most powerful price action-based tools, which signals the market's natural behavior, namely breakouts and pullbacks to the breakout level. In this indicator, the price breaks a key level either downward or upward, usually with strong momentum or spiky candles, and the indicator detects this momentum, where these spiky candles with their sharp movement break a level, create an imbalance, and form an FVG. After that, if the price pulls back to that level or zone, buy or sell signals are generated. These signals are in the direction of the breakout and price movement, making it easy for us to enter trades and take advantage of trading opportunities. This particular indicator, which we are discussing in detail, generates two distinct signals for us as traders, the first entry signal and the second entry signal into the trade. As you can clearly see here on the chart, after a sustained uptrend, the price action eventually breaks a significant level downward. At this point, the indicator is able to identify the breakout zone and then marks a specific zone for us, which serves as our first signal and our first entry opportunity. After that initial move, if the price pulls back to the first marked zone, the first signal is triggered, and as the price continues to move toward the second marked zone, the second signal is also triggered, thereby allowing us to have two separate entries here. We can set our stop loss behind the leg of the move and at the start of the spike, making sure to leave some distance for safety. After that, we can enter a position, ensuring that we use proper risk management techniques. In this particular case, we can enter a sell position and trade with a risk-reward ratio of either 1:1 or 1:2, depending on our strategy. Also, it is very important to note that you should always ignore signals that are generated against the prevailing trend, and only use signals that are in the direction of the current trend for entering trades. For example, in this section of the chart, the price is forming higher highs and higher lows, and as you can see here, when the price returns to this zone, a buy signal is generated. The price then moves upward again, a level is broken, and with the price pulling back to the entry zone, the first entry occurs. A buy signal is generated here, so we can enter a buy position and set our stop loss behind the spike candle, the first entry candle, or behind the first entry point, or behind the spike movement leg. Then, we can enter the trade with a risk-reward ratio of 1:1 or 1:2. In the settings section, in the input section, there are options available for us. In the first input, we can specify the minimum value for a prominent spike, which means we can set the minimum number of consecutive candles required for the spike to be valid. Here, a minimum of 4 candles is considered. In the next parameter, we can also enable or disable the momentum power, which is a momentum filter for the spike, which determines the strength threshold for filtering out weaker movements in the market. In the next section, we can also enable or disable the gap filter here, depending on our preferences. On the right side, by activating this option, we can choose between different modes, such as all gaps, significance gaps, structural gaps, and finally major gaps. In the next section, we can set the confirmation candle for spikes is an important indicator, and if we enable the 2G tolerance option, we can specifically specify the maximum 2G body ratio in the section below. We can also set the max 2G in spike ratio here, where in this input field, we are able to define the maximum body ratio for identifying 2G. In the next parameter, we can further specify the allowed percentage of 2Gs in the spike, providing us with more control over the identification process. In the next section, we can also set the position management status, where we have the option to enable or disable the threshold stop loss feature. If we choose to enable this particular option, we can then specify the threshold value for the threshold stop loss right here, as well as in the next parameter. This allows for more precise and flexible control over your risk management settings. We can set the risk to reward ratio, which by default is set to 1 to 2. In the next section, we can also enable or disable the threshold status in the R-bar calculations. In the display mode section, we can choose how the signal is displayed between two modes, setup and signal. If we select the setup mode, the indicator. In the next section, we can also enable or disable the threshold status in the R-to-R calculations. In the display mode section, we can choose how the signal is displayed between two modes, setup and signal. If we select the setup mode, the indicator determines the setup value for us, automatically calculates the stop loss and take profit levels, and displays them on the chart, which we can see the stop loss and take profit levels. In the next section, we can enable or disable the display of entry levels for trades. In the following parameter, we can also enable or disable the option to display only the last position on the chart, which only shows us the most recent position. In the next section, we can also configure the display thickness of the setup area on the chart, which is specifically set to a value of 2 by default, and we cannot increase this value. In the next section, we can set the sending status. It only shows the latest position. We can set the setup area thickness on the chart, which is 2 by default, and can be increased. We can enable or disable alert notifications when signals are generated. Finally, we can enable or disable showing input values in the status line, which is enabled by default. Disabling it hides the input values in the status line. Well, friends, we've reached the end of this indicator tutorial as well. You can enable or disable showing input values in the status line with the last input. By default, this is on, but you can turn it off. This is the end of the indicator tutorial. Please leave your comments and suggestions below.